Welcome to Public Account, where real-life nightmares come alive. Prepare to be haunted by chilling tales of the unknown, drawn from actual events. Lights off, volume up, and remember, these horrors are closer than you think. Subscribe, if you dare.
The Spirit of Zozo, a sinister entity from the Ouija board, the late 1970s through the 2000s. From the dark annals of supernatural folklore, one name has left its sinister mark, particularly in the 21st century: the Spirit of Zozo. Despite its modern prominence, tales of this mysterious entity can be traced back to the late 1970s. Throughout the decades, countless individuals have reported harrowing encounters with Zozo, often initiated through the seemingly innocent game of the Ouija board. The Ouija board, also known as the spirit board or talking board, has long been a controversial tool believed to connect the living with the dead. Its origins date back to the late 19th century and have been a popular parlor game for many. Yet as the 20th century wore on, darker tales began to emerge. Among these, the entity known as Zozo has carved out a particularly nefarious reputation. The many faces of Zozo. The exact origins of Zozo are shrouded in mystery. According to some, it may be a demon or a malevolent spirit, while others believe it could be a psychological phenomenon. But one thing is certain: by the 21st century, its tales had spread like wildfire across various online forums, personal testimonies, and documentaries. Typically, an encounter with Zozo would begin in a seemingly innocuous manner. The planchette, the movable indicator used on the Ouija board, might begin to move erratically, spelling out the name Zozo, or a variation thereof, such as Zaza or Mama. The entity often introduces itself in a friendly manner, enticing the user to continue communication, but this affable facade quickly falls away. Soon the entity begins sending ominous messages, often issuing threats, making disturbing predictions, or mocking the users. Tales of terror. Multiple accounts from different corners of the world have painted a consistent picture of the spirit's malevolence. Some have reported seeing shadowy figures or experienced physical sensations like cold drafts or unexplained scratches after their Ouija sessions. Others claim more lasting and profound effects, such as haunting experiences at their homes, a persistent feeling of being watched, or even possession-like symptoms. In several cases, people believe that personal tragedies or misfortunes they faced were directly linked to their encounters with Zozo. One particularly chilling testimony comes from a woman who, in the early 2000s, engaged with Zozo through the Ouija board. She detailed how the entity, after revealing its name, began predicting specific tragedies that would befall her family. Tragically, many of these predictions reportedly came true, leaving her and her family in a state of perpetual fear and despair. The allure and warning. Despite its terrifying reputation, or perhaps because of it, many have sought to communicate with Zozo. Some do so out of sheer curiosity, hoping to debunk the myths. Others, driven by a desire for thrill or the hope of a genuine supernatural encounter, willingly dive into the unknown. However, paranormal enthusiasts and experts alike have frequently warned against such interactions. Whether one believes in the genuine existence of spirits or considers the Ouija board a psychological tool, the effects it can produce are real. Many have attested to the profound psychological impact that an encounter with Zozo has had on their lives, leading to genuine fear, anxiety, and paranoia. A modern myth or an age-old entity. In an age of instant communication and digital information, tales of Zozo have proliferated across the web. Online forums are rife with first-hand accounts, while numerous documentaries have delved into the phenomenon, interviewing those who've come face-to-face with the entity. Yet, it begs the question: is Zozo a product of our collective imagination, fueled by online echo chambers, or does it represent something more ancient, perhaps an entity that has existed long before the advent of the internet, only to find a new platform in our digital age? Whatever the answer, the Spirit of Zozo serves as a chilling reminder of the unknown forces that may lurk just beyond our understanding. Whether fact or fiction, its tales have left an indelible mark on those who've encountered it, serving as a cautionary tale for all who dare to venture into the world of the supernatural. The Possession of Roland Doe, 1949, a harrowing chronicle. In the late 1940s, an unsettling event from the quiet neighborhoods of Maryland catapulted into national attention, its chilling narrative serving as the inspiration for one of the most iconic horror films of all time, The Exorcist. At the epicenter of these extraordinary occurrences was a young boy, known by the pseudonym Roland Doe. His purported possession and the subsequent exorcisms performed on him are the stuff of both legend and meticulous documentation. Relying heavily on newspaper articles from the period and the comprehensive exploration in Thomas B. Allen's book, Possessed, we delve into the harrowing account of Roland Doe. The narrative's genesis can be traced back to a seemingly innocuous act, using a Ouija board. Following the death of a beloved family member, his aunt, young Roland, sought solace and perhaps closure by attempting to contact her spirit through the board. Little did he know that this simple act, often dismissed as a parlor game, would set off a series of events that would shake the very foundations of his and his family's beliefs. Shortly after this, the Doe household began to witness inexplicable phenomena. Household objects seemed to develop a will of their own, levitating and moving across rooms without any external force. Whispered voices and eerie sounds echoed through their home, particularly around Roland. Disturbingly, these weren't just nocturnal occurrences confined to the proverbial witching hour. They transpired at all times, casting an ominous shadow over the once peaceful residence. The family, devout Catholics, sought help from their church. Local priests visited the home and, after witnessing the bizarre occurrences firsthand, recommended the rite of exorcism. Roland, by now, was not just a passive observer of the otherworldly activities surrounding him. His behavior had undergone a radical transformation. He exhibited violent outbursts, his speech was interspersed with languages he had never learned, and he seemed to possess knowledge about events and individuals that he had no way of knowing. Roland's parents, desperate for answers and relief for their son, agreed to the church's proposal. The first exorcism was performed in secret, away from the prying eyes of the public. However, it was not to be the last. The initial rite seemed to only exacerbate the situation. Roland's condition deteriorated, and the mysterious phenomena intensified. The story quickly spread beyond the confines of the local community. Reporters from various newspapers, latching onto the sensational nature of the story, began to document the events. While some articles approached the matter with skepticism, others reported the accounts with a sense of grave urgency. The national attention only heightened the already palpable tension in the Doe household. Thomas B. Allen, in his detailed account, Possessed, relied not only on these newspaper articles, but also on extensive interviews, diary entries from the priests involved, and church documents to paint a comprehensive picture of Roland's ordeal. According to Allen, multiple exorcisms were performed on the boy, with each ritual becoming increasingly intense. Roland exhibited superhuman strength, spoke in demonic voices, and bore physical marks on his body that appeared and disappeared inexplicably. The climax of these exorcisms, as documented in various sources, was as harrowing as it was relieving. The final rite, performed by a team of seasoned exorcists, lasted several hours. Roland reportedly convulsed, shouted, and resisted with formidable strength, but as dawn approached, the tumultuous atmosphere seemed to settle. Roland, exhausted but clear-eyed, was free from the grip of whatever had possessed him. The aftermath of the event saw the Doe family move away from Maryland, seeking anonymity and a fresh start. Roland's later life, as Allen notes, was markedly ordinary. He grew up, married, and led a life devoid of the supernatural occurrences that once plagued him. The story of Roland Doe remains one of the most well-documented cases of possession and exorcism in modern history. Skeptics argue that the events might have been the result of psychological disorders, clever manipulations, or even mass hysteria. Believers, on the other hand, see it as a testament to the eternal battle between good and evil, a cautionary tale of dabbling in the unknown. Whatever one's beliefs, the account of Roland Doe and the exorcisms of 1949 stands as a haunting chronicle, forever etched in the annals of paranormal history. Patricia Reading's Tragic Predictions, 1964, an eerie glimpse into the unknown. In the heart of Texas, October 1964, Patricia Reading found herself wrapped in an enigma, one that many still debate the authenticity and implications of. The tale of her tragic predictions is one that harks back to the deep-seated mysteries of life and destiny. Using an instrument as ordinary as an Ouija board, Reading tapped into what she believed to be the realm of the unknown and predicted not only the assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963, but also her own tragic demise a year later. A haunting prelude. Local newspapers in Texas and online accounts have since documented Patricia's startling claims, painting a story that's hard to believe yet even harder to ignore. Patricia was not a prophet nor a professional psychic. Instead, she was a regular citizen who reportedly chanced upon a force much larger than herself. In 1963, just months before the assassination of President Kennedy, Patricia told friends and family about a chilling prediction that her Ouija board had revealed. The board, often considered a toy or parlor game, spelled out the impending assassination. While many dismissed her claims, seeing it as a quirky, perhaps off-color joke, the world was soon rocked by the heart-wrenching event of President Kennedy's assassination in Dallas. Suddenly, Patricia's eerie premonition became the subject of hushed conversations and local intrigue. A prediction too close to home, with the world still reeling from the tragedy of the Kennedy assassination. 1964 brought with it an even more personal prediction for Patricia. This time, the Ouija board hinted at her own fate. She confided in close friends and even some local reporters about the board's revelations. It had foretold that she would meet her end in a car accident on Halloween night. Many were skeptical, with some dismissing her claims as an attempt at gaining attention or perhaps a byproduct of the trauma from her previous prediction. Others, however, recalled the accuracy of her first prediction and were filled with a sense of foreboding. The month of October 1964 was an unsettling time for those who knew Patricia. Many pleaded with her to stay home on Halloween, to avoid the fate that she believed awaited her. Some even offered to be with her, hoping that their presence might somehow deter the predicted outcome. Whether she decided to challenge fate or was merely resigned to her destiny, Patricia chose to leave her home on the night of October 31st. A tragic fulfillment. As local newspapers reported the next day, Patricia Reading's car was found wrecked on a quiet Texas road on Halloween night. She had been involved in a fatal accident, just as the Ouija board had forewarned. The news of her demise spread like wildfire, with many recalling her prediction and feeling a chilling sensation down their spines. Those who had dismissed her claims were left in shock, grappling with the unfathomable reality of the situation. Patricia's story quickly became legendary. Was it a mere coincidence, or had the Ouija board truly tapped into some unknown force, revealing the future with disturbing accuracy? The event spurred many debates. While skeptics maintained that it was a tragic but random occurrence, others began to delve deeper into the mysteries of the Ouija board and the possibility of predicting or even altering future events. Echoes in the digital age. As the decades passed, Patricia Reading's tale was further immortalized in various online retellings. With each recounting, her story seemed to gain a new layer, making it difficult to discern fact from fiction. But one truth remains undeniable. Patricia Reading, the Texas woman who foretold the assassination of a president and her own death, remains an indelible part of paranormal lore. In an age of skepticism and logic, Patricia's story serves as a chilling reminder of the mysteries that still elude human understanding. Whether one views her predictions as a connection to a deeper cosmic truth or merely a series of unsettling coincidences, Patricia Reading's tragic predictions of 1964 will forever be etched in the annals of the unknown.
The bizarre and tragic case of Brian Roach's murder. 2001. Introduction. The year 2001 witnessed a series of tragic and unsettling events, yet one of the most shocking incidents occurred in the quiet realms of Oklahoma. This tragic event, widely known as the murder of Brian Roach, brought to light the dangerous interplay of mental instability, superstition, and violence. Carol Sue Elvaker, a woman in her mid-40s, committed an act so heinous that it left the community and nation in a state of shock and disbelief. Background: Carol Sue Elvaker seemed to be living a normal life with her family in Oklahoma. She was the mother-in-law of Brian Roach, a man who was well regarded in the community. The two, along with Carol's daughters, lived a seemingly ordinary life until the events of one fateful night took a dark turn. The incident. On the night of the incident, Carol, her daughters, and Brian were engaged in what appeared to be a harmless activity, playing with a Ouija board. The Ouija board, a game believed by some to facilitate communication with spirits, became the catalyst for the tragic events that ensued. As they played, Carol became increasingly convinced that the spirits were sending her a message that painted Brian Roach as evil. Without warning, Carol's behavior turned violent. She armed herself with a knife and attacked Brian, stabbing him multiple times. The attack was swift and brutal, leaving Brian with no chance of survival. Carol's daughters, witnessing the horrifying act, were in shock, unable to comprehend what had just transpired. The aftermath. In the moments that followed Brian's murder, Carol's mental state continued to unravel. She turned her violent tendencies towards her daughters, attempting to kill them as well. Miraculously, the girls managed to escape, fleeing from the home and seeking help. Police quickly responded to the scene, discovering the lifeless body of Brian Roach and an erratic Carol Sue Elviker. She was immediately taken into custody, and the investigation into the tragic incident began. The investigation. The police worked diligently to uncover the details of the case, piecing together the events of that tragic night. Carol was uncooperative, her mental state making it difficult for investigators to discern the motive behind her violent actions. However, through interviews with her daughters and the examination of evidence at the scene, a picture began to form. Carol Sue Elviker believed that she was following instructions from the spirits communicated through the Ouija board. She claimed that the spirits had labelled Brian as evil, compelling her to take his life. Her belief in the Ouija board's messages was so strong that it overrode any rational thought, leading her down a path of violence and destruction. The legal proceedings. Carol Sue Elviker was charged with the murder of Brian Roach, as well as the attempted murder of her daughters. The gravity of the crime, coupled with her unstable mental state, made for a complex and challenging legal proceeding. Defense attorneys argued for Carol's mental instability, presenting evidence of her delusional beliefs and erratic behavior. Prosecutors, however, focused on the premeditated nature of the crime, highlighting the severity of her actions and the need for justice for Brian and her daughters. The trial and verdict. The trial was a media spectacle capturing the attention of the nation. People were fascinated and horrified by the story, trying to comprehend how a seemingly normal family gathering could turn into a scene of such violence and chaos. After weeks of testimonies, evidence presentation, and legal arguments, the jury was tasked with delivering a verdict. Carol Sue Elviker was found guilty of the murder of Brian Roach and the attempted murder of her daughters. However, due to her mental state, she was deemed not responsible by reason of insanity. The conclusion: Carol Sue Elviker was committed to a mental health facility where she would receive the necessary treatment and evaluation. The verdict, while providing a sense of closure for the legal proceedings, left the community and the nation grappling with the complex issues of mental health, superstition, and violence. The tragedy of Brian Roach's murder served as a stark reminder of the potential dangers lurking within the minds of individuals. It highlighted the need for awareness, understanding, and support for those struggling with mental health issues. The bizarre and tragic case of Brian Roach's murder remains a poignant example of how quickly a life can be taken, and the lasting impact it can have on a community and beyond. The Haunting of the Wyrick House, 1988. The late 1980s witnessed an extraordinary event that shook the small town of Georgia to its very core. The Wyrick family, living an otherwise quiet life, suddenly became the focal point of chilling tales and stories that left many in disbelief. Their account, rooted in their personal experiences, became a point of discussion for years and was so impactful that it even inspired a movie adaptation titled The Haunting in Connecticut 2: Ghosts of Georgia. The chronicle began with a seemingly innocent act by the Wyrick family's young 8-year-old daughter, Heidi Wyrick, who, out of curiosity, or perhaps an innocent longing to communicate with the unknown, began using a Ouija board. The family could never have foreseen the chain of events that this act would initiate. Not long after the first use of the board, inexplicable occurrences began to manifest within the Wyrick household. The family started to experience encounters with ghostly apparitions. While some of these spectres seemed benign, others exuded an aura of malevolence. One of the most frequently reported apparitions was that of a kind old lady. Described as gentle in appearance, she seemed to be more of a guardian figure than a threat to the Wyricks. She was often seen around the house, silently observing or occasionally offering a faint smile. However, juxtaposed with the comforting sight of the elderly woman was the haunting figure of a man, marked distinctly by his bloody hand. His apparition was far more menacing and instilled fear every time he made an appearance. The image of his bloody hand was particularly harrowing, leading many to speculate about the tragic or possibly violent circumstances of his demise. Word of the Wyrick family's experiences quickly spread through the community. Their neighbours, friends, and even local journalists became increasingly interested in their story. As the news travelled, various articles and interviews began to emerge, documenting the family's ordeal. The phenomenon soon caught national attention. Opinions on the Wyrick house's haunting varied widely. Skeptics dismissed the claims, suggesting that the family's experiences were either exaggerations, hallucinations, or merely the products of an overactive imagination. They pointed towards the influence of the Ouija board, arguing that it could have planted seeds of expectation and fear in the young girl's mind, which subsequently affected the entire family. Conversely, believers and paranormal enthusiasts supported the Wyricks, citing numerous testimonies and accounts from other individuals who claimed to have experienced similar ghostly encounters. They argued that the Ouija board might have acted as a portal, allowing spirits or entities from the other side to communicate or even cross over into our world. In the midst of this whirlwind of media attention and public speculation, the Wyrick family sought assistance from paranormal experts and spiritual leaders, attempting to understand the forces they had unwittingly unleashed and find a way to cope or even end the haunting. Over time, the frenzy surrounding the Wyrick house began to die down. However, the family's experiences remained a much-discussed topic in the annals of paranormal lore. Their haunting tales served as inspiration for filmmakers, culminating in the creation of The Haunting in Connecticut 2, Ghosts of Georgia. The movie adaptation further propelled the family's story into the limelight, introducing it to a new generation of horror enthusiasts and believers in the supernatural. The events at the Wyrick house serve as a cautionary tale about the mysteries of the unseen world and the potential consequences of meddling with forces beyond our understanding. Whether one believes in the existence of ghosts and the paranormal or not, the Wyrick family's experiences in the late 1980s remain a chilling reminder that there are aspects of our universe that we may never fully comprehend.